So, you want to hear about the man who claimed to be the strongest? The one who walked through the world as if it bent to his will alone? I've met men like that before. They build their thrones on arrogance, never realizing the foundations are made of sand. His name was Gojo Satoru. And he learned, as all who stand against me do, that there is a truth beyond strength. A requiem. It began on a perfectly ordinary day in Naples. The sun was warm, the streets were bustling, a city reborn under a new dawn. My associates were managing the day-to-day, ensuring the poison of the past remained buried. Then, a ripple. Not in the physical sense, but in the very fabric of causality. It was a presence so overwhelming, so absolute, that it felt like a tear in reality itself. He appeared without a sound, a blindfolded man with an aura of untouchable confidence. He looked around, a smirk playing on his lips, as if he found my world quaint. He introduced himself, his voice laced with a playful condescension. "You must be the one in charge here," he said, gesturing vaguely at the city around us. "Giorno, Giovanna, was it? I've heard interesting things. A kid playing gangster. Cute." I remained silent. I've learned that the loudest voices often have the least to say. His energy, this cursed energy he called it, was unlike anything I had ever sensed. It was a torrent of negative emotion, yet he wielded it with the casual grace of a master painter. I simply asked him his purpose. Why had he come to my city? He chuckled. "Just sightseeing," he replied, tilting his head. "And to see if the rumors are true. They say you have a power that can nullify things. I'm a bit of a nullifier myself. It gets lonely at the top, you know. I thought I'd see who else is up here." His arrogance was a tangible force, a barrier more real than any wall. He called it infinity. An endless conceptual space between him and the world. Nothing could touch him. I decided a demonstration was in order. I gestured to a nearby cobblestone. With a touch of gold experience, it transformed, sprouting into a vibrant, ornate rose bush. The scent of life filled the air. It was a simple act, a reminder of the potential that lies dormant in all things. He seemed momentarily intrigued, like a scientist observing a peculiar specimen. "Life manipulation? Neat trick," he commented, but his posture didn't change. He was still untouchable, still supreme in his own mind. The time for pleasantries was over. He had invaded my home, his very presence a threat to the peace I had fought so hard to build. He made the first move. A gesture, a flicker of his fingers, and a wave of pure destructive force, a technique he called blue, erupted towards me. It wasn't just an attack. It was an attempt to collapse reality itself into a single point of attraction. But as it neared, my stand, gold experience, was already there. A flurry of silent fists, not to destroy his attack, but to imbue it with life. The crushing void of blue faltered. From its epicenter, a kaleidoscope of butterflies burst forth, their wings shimmering with impossible colors. They fluttered around him, turning his technique of absolute destruction into a beacon of creation. For the first time, the smirk on his face wavered. He saw it. He saw that his power, however absolute, was still a part of the world, a world I could command. He laughed, a genuine booming laugh this time. "Okay," he said, stretching his arms. "Okay, that's new. I'm impressed. You're not just playing gangster." He then brought his hands together. A new energy, opposite to the first, began to gather. "Red," he announced. "A repulsive force, an explosion of power designed to blast everything away." He launched it, a crimson orb of pure kinetic energy. Again, gold experience met it head-on. This time, I didn't just create butterflies. I transformed the very air the attack was traveling through. The molecules themselves were given life, blooming into a dense, instantaneous forest of ancient trees. The mighty trunks and interwoven branches absorbed the repulsive force of red, their roots digging deep into the ground, grounding his power, rendering it harmless. The street was now a quiet, sun-dappled forest. He stood amidst the trees I had created, a flicker of something new in his eyes. Not fear, but frustration. The frustration of a god whose divinity was being questioned. "You're getting in the way," he said, his tone losing its playful edge. "This infinity of mine? It's not a suggestion. It's absolute. Nothing can reach me." To prove his point, he stood perfectly still as I sent a vine, born from a cobblestone, snaking towards him. As it came within inches, it simply stopped, trapped in that endless, invisible space. Physically, nothing I created could bridge that conceptual gap. My fists, my trees, my creatures, they were all bound by the laws of cause and effect, space and time. And his power was a denial of that. It was a clever, powerful defense. But he made a critical mistake. He assumed that the only way to reach him was to cross that space. He failed to understand that I don't need to travel to a destination that is already everywhere. It isn't just in the things you can see and touch. It's in the air you breathe, the ground you stand on, the very potential for action and thought. His infinity protected his physical body, but it didn't exist in a vacuum. It existed within a reality, a universe teeming with the very life energy I command. I didn't need to attack him directly. I just needed to awaken the world he was standing in. I reached out with gold experience, not towards him, but towards everything. The air molecules around him, the dust motes suspended in his infinity, the very ground beneath his feet. I gave them all life, not to become animals or plants, but to become extensions of my will. He felt it then. The ground wasn't just ground anymore. The air wasn't just air. It was all me. He was standing inside my stand. His infinity could stop a punch from the outside, but it couldn't stop the floor he was standing on from turning into 1,000 grasping hands. It couldn't stop the air in his lungs from trying to sprout into flowers. The strongest sorcerer, the man who could not be touched, was being deconstructed from within by the very concept of life. He tried to teleport, to escape the space he was in. But where could he go? Every potential destination was also part of my domain. He was trapped not in a location, but in a state of being. He was a foreign object, and the world itself, awakened by my will, was treating him like an infection. This was the moment he realized his concept of strength was a child's fantasy. But I knew this would only hold him for a moment. His power was immense. He would adapt, tear reality apart if he had to. It was time to end this. It was time for the requiem. The arrow, which I keep not as a weapon, but as a key, chose me once more. Gold experience began to transform, bathed in a celestial light, becoming something more. Something beyond a stand. Gold experience requiem. The moment requiem was born, everything changed. Gojo Satoru froze. The struggle ceased. The confusion on his face was replaced by a hollow emptiness. He was looking at me, but he wasn't seeing me anymore. Gold Experience Requiem doesn't just punch you. It doesn't just create life. It operates on a truth more fundamental than any power, the truth of cause and effect. It sets to zero. He had arrived in my city. That was the cause. His defeat was the effect. But Requiem denies the effect from ever being reached. For him, in that single eternal moment, time shattered. He was thrown into a labyrinth of causality. He would experience his own death over and over in an infinite number of ways, but never, ever reach the truth of it. He would see himself atomized by his own hollow purple, only to find himself back at the beginning. He would be consumed by the very life I created, only to reset. Trapped in a loop, a dream of death from which he can never awaken. He is not dead. He is not alive. He simply is not. His actions, his will, his entire existence have been returned to zero. There is no victory for him to achieve, no defeat for him to suffer. Only the endless path, leading nowhere. My city is quiet again. The sun is shining. People are living their lives free from fear, free from the machinations of men who believe themselves to be gods. They will never know the battle that was fought for their peace. They don't need to. That is my resolve. That is my gold experience requiem. Strength is not about being untouchable. True strength is the will to create a reality where everyone can feel safe. And against that truth, No power, no matter how infinite, can ever hope to stand.